Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. And thanks to Vasya for joining us today from Antiloneliness. I just want to start off by kind of introducing what this is this evening and what I'm doing here in general. My name is Joyce Bergsma, for those of you that don't know, and I am a nutritional therapist. I help women find freedom from anxiety from the nutrition side of things. And recently I've been reaching out to some people that I know and some new people that also share my interest in helping people recover from anxiety. And one of those is Vasya, who I actually met quite a few years ago, maybe 8 to 10 years ago, I think. It was just as you were starting Anti-Loneliness.
Yeah.
So remind me of how long ago was that?
I think it was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, because I live in the Netherlands 8 years now, 8.5. So I think it must be 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, you were just starting it. We met at the Spark event for entrepreneurs, and there's always a big focus on health there. So we met there. So Vasya Sarantopoulou did I say it correctly? Your last name?
Yeah.
Excellent. Is the head psychologist and founder of Antiloneliness. And tonight she is here to tell us a little bit about what she's doing. I'd like to talk to her about the different topics that she covers in Antiloneliness, which you really see a lot on her Instagram. And we're going to explore a little bit more about perfectionism in particular, because I think that is something that a lot of my clients and followers struggle with. And we're going to just see how this goes. So Vasya, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor that I'm here and I get to talk about perfectionism, and of course, create this safe place for people to ask the question and explore together with us.
Yeah, fantastic. So you, as we mentioned, you started Anti-Loneliness about 7 years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is, what you do, what your background is?
Yeah. So I started studying psychology in 1998. And in Greece, in Athens. This is where I did my bachelor studies and then my first master in psychology. And after having worked a couple of years there, not only in companies as a psychologist, but also in my private practice, then I decided that I needed something different, like abroad, the Europe, was calling me, and I wanted to explore and expand my horizons. So I decided to do a second master, and then I chose Leiden University, which is a very good university for psychology studies. I came in Leiden. I loved this place. I really enjoyed being here. And there was a match between me and the place. I felt really like home here. So after finishing, of course, my studies, I didn't even think going back. I decided that this is where I stay and this is where I built my home and I make it feel like home. So I started plotting how to start my own private practice, but I didn't want to start something like just the practice. I wanted a mission behind it. I wanted something that I would advocate for. So I was thinking, what would that be? And what is something that, I don't know, for some reason, my mind was going into the direction, what is something that everybody without exception experiences? Either they do struggle with their mental health or not, irrelevant of their mental health condition. So then it struck me that this is loneliness, because everybody goes through phases and periods of loneliness. And me as an expert being in Leiden, I have experienced that because it was a transition. I was here in the Netherlands, in a new country, in a new culture, with a new language. So it was completely new for me, and everything new in our life is accompanied by this feeling of loneliness. And it's not something that we should be ashamed of. It's very natural. And that's why many times when I talk about loneliness, I say that loneliness is also not being connected with yourself, or um, exploring new part of yourself that you don't know that it exists, or you're having kind of an identity crisis. And this is what happens every time we are in a new environment. Either this is a new country or a new job. This is new for us, and that comes together with the feeling of loneliness. So hence the name anti-loneliness, or anti-loneliness, as I say.
Mm. I really like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, Leiden is such a beautiful city. If
Yeah.
anyone has not been there, it's I was just there last week. I really, really like it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just as pretty as Amsterdam, where I'm based right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. And
You cannot compare. I mean, Holland has beautiful cities.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So this was how the Dutch journey in my career started as a psychotherapist. And while I was growing as a psychotherapist and attending more trainings and courses, as of course every psychotherapist is doing throughout their whole life,
yeah.
I was expanding also my practice, and more psychologists joined. And now we are a team of 14 psychologists, and we're helping our
Amazing.
community, but also people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're offering the best we can in order to support people's mental health.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, you're so right that loneliness is a universal experience, right? It's something that we can all connect on. And I mean, Alicia's in Thailand, and everyone here is from a different country. And I've lived in England, I lived in Australia, uh, quite a few different countries. And every time you move, it's true. It's like there's an adjustment period, and then you think you're doing okay, and then you realize, okay, no, maybe not as well as I thought. So loneliness is kind of something that just it can follow you around sometimes, or you can be with a lot of people, even people you care about, and still feel lonely, right?
Absolutely.
It's like change happens in your life in any case, and you can feel lonely. So
Yeah, and especially exactly like what you said, even you can be even in a relationship and feel lonely.
yeah,
And you realize that you have grown, and that made you become, more apart, more distant with your partner. So that's also loneliness, even though you are in a relationship. The irony.
yeah, yeah, it's really crazy. But now, so I follow you very closely on Instagram. I love it when your stories pop up. I'm always looking at them. I've been following you for years and really seeing the progression of your practice. I'm very happy to have you here today. But I really love how you go through lots of different topics, but are very consistent about it, because I learn something new every time I listen to you speak. And you have a very calming voice, by the way. I really love to listen to it. But
I
some
hear
of
that a lot.
the, yeah,
I didn't know that until, like you need an Instagram account in order to get a feedback about your voice.
exactly. Yeah, but it's really very relaxing to listen to, and that makes it also much easier to take in information and remember it. But I know some of the topics that you are talking about are like boundaries, which is such a nice thing to talk about, especially with people. We just passed a holiday, so you're going to be around family, and that's where boundaries often get crossed the most. But also people pleasing.
Yeah.
So people tend to give a lot more of themselves than they should. And an inner peace versus pain, or like the two are not opposite. I was listening to the other day. That's a really interesting one.
Yeah.
And also how we always try to numb our pain rather than admitting it, sitting in it, existing. And of course, perfectionism is a big one. So
Yeah.
do you want to speak to any of these topics? I know we're going to definitely get into a bit of perfectionism, but do you want to speak to any of these in the meantime?
Um, the way that my brain works is that I take an umbrella of a topic and I break it into very tiny, tiny bits
Mm.
in order to make it more practical and more understandable. So what you're saying is also what many people have said to me in my Instagram account, that you talk about something that not many people talk, and you make it so simple and understandable. So this has been my approach throughout my whole life. I don't like theories that they're abstract and big and very complicated. I like it to make it simple, and I like to make it really understandable.
Mhm.
So, and that's why I focus on these. So my main areas are, of course, since I am anti-loneliness, I talk about the antidote to loneliness, which is relationships. And I'm especially attracted to relationships because not only because of my studies, and I have done trainings in emotionally focused therapy, which is the most successful approach on relationships. Not only because of my trainings, but also because I believe that we haven't learned anything about relationships. We didn't learn anything about that in school. And unfortunately, we pay a very high price for that because we go out in the real world having actually known only one relationship, and this is the one of our parents. And maybe that's not a super healthy one and a model of a healthy relationship. So we go out in the real world with knowing only one relationship, and then we figure out the real, let's say, life about relationships and what it entails. And we learn from scratch how to ask, how to give, how to talk, how to express, how to set boundaries, all these things that they are new, not only to us, but also to our generation. And, and I'm saying about the generation thing because my parents, your parents, had a completely different style of relating with each other. Very, very different style. We don't agree with this, or it's not our values that we relate with people in the same way. There was a lot of codependency. There were different priorities, different roles for men and women.
Yeah.
That's not us. So we have to reinvent something and to discover what it means from scratch. So that's why I'm focusing so much on relationships.
Hmm. Yeah, and we're navigating it new, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're carrying around the old ways of thinking about things that you inherited from your parents, you kind of have to separate from that and fit it into your own values now.
Of course, and not to mention also intergenerational trauma that you carry from your parents, and then you project it on your own relationships. So one topic is relating with the other. So I talk about relationships, but I also talk about boundaries, but I also talk about attachment style, but I also talk about trauma, but I also talk about perfectionism because we carry this perfectionistic mindset in our relationships as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I like how you mentioned that you try to break things up quite a lot, like the smaller and smaller pieces that you deliver in a really practical way. Because that's also my approach when I'm working with my clients,
Hmm.
that, it's, I mean, you can look on the internet and find sort of a gold standard diet that you should do, right? Of course, that doesn't fit you as an individual, maybe, but regardless, you can kind of say, oh, just do that, just
Yeah,
follow this thing, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's much more complicated than that. You need to break it down into the smallest little change that you could possibly make, like try and drink some more water today. That's a good place to start,
yeah,
and understand why that's important for you and your health, and but really focusing on the small changes that you can make, because it reduces the overwhelm. You know, it's not about doing it perfect. It's just about moving a step forward.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about perfectionism. How do you recognize that you're trying to be too perfect? Because we're here talking about how to be imperfectly perfect. We're perfectly imperfect.
Yes, yes, yeah. And I like the perfectly imperfect or the imperfectly perfect. I like that because um, usually the people that want to know about perfectionism are people that they are high achievers, ambitious people. So the first thing that they say to me is like, so what's wrong being imperfectionist? Because you don't want to let that part go. What if I'm not a perfectionist and then I become a lazy person who goes really slowly, who progresses very, slowly, and then I don't succeed. So you don't want to let go of that.
Society tells us that we have to be ambitious, we have to push forward, we shouldn't be sitting around, we need to do more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I try to do is, and to teach is how we can be healthy perfectionists instead of toxic perfectionists. And that means that I can keep the strive for excellence. I can keep this ambition. I can keep the high goals, but at the same time, without the self-punishment, without the self-sabotage, without all this rumination with the negative thinking, without all these fears, without the shame, because there's a lot of shame behind the toxic perfectionist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why I like the perfectly imperfect or the imperfectly perfect.
We're gonna have to sort that one out, so we don't have to say
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, exactly. Let's say imperfectly perfect.
Imperfectly perfect. Yes.
Yes, yes. So some of the features of a perfectionist is, as I said before, one of the most common is fear of failure. And when I'm talking about fear of failure, I mean that the person who is afraid of failing is a person who is not only afraid of failing at a big goal or at a huge project. We're talking about daily encounters of failure. I'm talking about raising your hand at the team meeting and saying what you believe, but then you don't because you're afraid that you're going to say something silly.
Mm.
I'm talking about committing to a promise because you're afraid that you're not going to be able to keep that promise. I'm talking about small things that we are afraid to do. We are afraid to say yes. We are afraid to say I'm responsible. We are afraid to make a decision even, because what if this decision is the wrong one and then I will regret it? We are avoiding even the pain, the regret even from a decision, or we think that the decision will be something that will haunt me my whole life.
Oh yeah, yeah. I really, that really strikes me what you say about these small things that seem inconsequential, that where you stop yourself all the time. Oh, I would like to say something. I have an opinion, but I'm too
No,
scared that people are going to laugh at me or think that I'm stupid, or and then you berate yourself internally, either
yes,
for not saying it or for the thoughts you have or whatever it is, right?
yeah, absolutely. And this is what I wrote on the newsletter that I sent out today. There was a quote that I read and I loved it. It was exactly what is the truth behind fear of failure. And it said that fear of failure is essentially fear of shame.
Mm-hmm.
We are afraid that if we fail, then we will be so ashamed and we will actually be devastated. Our self-image will be devastated of what has happened.
Yeah, it's such a big feeling, shame, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's why perfectionists, and that's a second feature, They are looking for approval. They want to perform, they want to complete tasks or to do tasks so that they can get approved from other people, because they believe that other people's approval means that they are worthy, means that they are enough, means that they are important enough, intelligent enough, successful enough.
Mhm.
So always enough. And that's why they're seeking for other people's approval. However, what they're liking is self-acceptance.
Oh yeah. So when we accept ourselves,
Yeah,
we don't need it from other people.
of course.
Yeah.
And also when you take it from other people, but you don't have yourself, your own self-acceptance, what happens?
You're going to feel inadequate, aren't you?
Other people's approval just stays with you only for a while,
Yeah.
and then it fades away again, and then you need again approval again from somebody else.
Yeah.
So it just slides away, and then you need more. While when you have a more concrete self-acceptance, you're not depending on other people's approval. Of course it's welcome, of course it's a joyous moment when people approve of you. Oh yeah, sure, I
Mhm.
love it. But it's not filling a void.
Yeah. And so maybe it's far less important to you as well to have other people's approval.
Yeah,
But I guess too, you can have a situation where you kind of need other people's approval in certain situations, and in other situations you can be very confident
yeah,
and accepting of yourself.
yeah.
So you can be a partial perfectionist, maybe.
Of course, of course. What I usually say is that all coping mechanisms are welcome, even those that we believe that they are maladaptive or that they are unhelpful. They're all welcome. They're there for a reason. The toxic part or the unhealthy part is if we have only this coping mechanism. We only go there. We don't have any other way to handle life. We only use this. If we can be flexible, and sometimes we can be perfectionist, and sometimes we can use another coping mechanism and avoid it, or a people pleaser, or whatever it is, and we're not hooked on one of them, I think it's more manageable.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So also healing from perfectionism, can we say, is,
Yeah,
is a process,
of course,
right?
of course.
No healing is a straight line.
No, no, it takes time. I mean, we have been carrying a specific mindset for decades. Is it possible that we're going to get rid of it in a week, in a month? No,
Yeah.
it's there. We're talking about neurons, we're talking about connections in our brain. One thought leads to another, and it has been concrete, it has been cultivated for decades. So I usually use a metaphor that says that your perfectionistic thoughts, your negative thoughts, your self-talk that you have been using until now, it's a tree with really deep roots.
Mm.
The new one now, your new idea about yourself, your new thoughts, the anti-perfectionist, let's say, or the positive self-talk, is just a seed. And now you're just planting it. You're just putting it into the soil. The other one has deep roots. The new one is just a seed. So you can imagine that you can neither uproot the tree, of course, it's there, it's really strong, but you can also not expect that this seed will have deep roots in a month from now. We need to water it and wait and water it and
Mm.
take care of it and wait, and then it will eventually become big and have deep roots. But at the same time, we have to stop watering the other one. Eh?
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Divert all water sources to the new seed.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's a really nice analogy. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another feature and maybe we're not going to say about perfectionism, all of them, but I think another one is very important. Comparisons. A perfectionist is comparing themselves with others all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And surprisingly or not surprisingly enough, they always compare themselves with somebody who's ahead, somebody who's better, somebody who has done it before, somebody who has been more successful, somebody who has been more. You will not hear somebody saying, well, I'm okay because somebody else is behind me. No, a perfectionist would not say that.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, in one of the meetings that we do, the monthly meetings we do with the members of the perfectionism course, there was one lady and she said to me, but how is it possible that everybody is ahead of me? But this is exactly perfectionism talking, because perfectionism makes us believe that everybody's better than us and all the other people, there's nobody behind. We're just like the last one, the
Mm-hmm.
last one on the line.
Yeah.
Or other people who are behind us are not important enough so that we can actually compare ourselves with them. So what I usually say about that is, first of all, that this is the distorted reality of perfectionism. This is the glasses that perfectionism puts on our face and makes us see only people being better than us. But the second very toxic thing that perfectionism does to us is makes us believe that people are comparable. People are objects. People are numbers. And you're a 9, another 7. Oh, why am not a 9?
Yeah.
And somebody else is a 5, which is not the case. We're not numbers. You cannot compare somebody's journey, somebody's success with somebody else. We haven't gone through the same experiences.
It's like
It's not
comparing apples
possible.
and oranges.
It's like, sorry?
Like comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not human. That's the inhuman part of perfectionism.
Yeah.
It exhausts us by believing that we are a robot, we're a machine, and if we work faster, then we can produce faster and we can grow faster. But this is not the case.
Mm-hmm. And what about the people that are behind us? Like you say that we don't compare to people that are behind us. But what I find when I speak to my clients is that they actually always have a reason why someone else is behind them. Like they, in a way, they have more compassion for the people that are behind than they do for themselves
Oh yeah.
when
Oh
they're
yeah.
doing the comparison, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed.
It's a
We're
funny.
more compassionate for others than for ourselves, huh?
Yeah, always. Yeah. Yeah. I'm afraid my mother is a little bit like this. So I'm always like, Mom, you can't talk, don't compare yourself to anyone else. You're a unique person,
Yeah,
and we're all beautiful in our own right. So yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another misunderstanding about compassion or self-compassion. We believe that if we become compassionate, we will become soft and lazy. And this is more about self-pity. Self-compassion is about self-pity. And that's why we abstain from practicing it.
Yeah, that's a really key differentiation.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
you mentioned your groups or your course. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or what other things that you are offering?
So in July, I started in Antiloneliness Academy, which is my platform for online courses. I launched for the first time a masterclass in perfectionism, and it's called How to Stop Perfectionism and Start Living. And this is all these tools that I want to share with everybody who's struggling with perfectionism, from understanding perfectionism, from going to the roots, to resolving and reversing perfectionism from healthy to toxic, from toxic to healthy, you know,
Preferably.
yeah, preferably, yeah, with the tools that they are not only practical, oriented towards change of behavior, but also emotional and cognitive tools. So how we can stay, as we say, with the fears, how we can work with our fears, how we can work with self-acceptance and self-compassion, but also the cognitive part, how we can change the beliefs we have about ourselves. So these are all the tools that I have created and I shared in this course. So people that they purchase the course, they also have the chance once a month to be in a group with other perfectionists. So we are a lot of perfectionists in there. And we can have a training call, a call where I share more tools and we discuss and we go deeper, but at the same time, they bring their own questions.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Then they can ask everything and also learn from each other, I guess, as well.
Exactly. And it's so relieving to see that more people are going through the same struggles with you, through the same experience. Instantly, you feel like, okay, I'm not the only one. Yeah.
Good. So the academy is like a membership style, is it?
Yeah. So the course on perfectionism can also be purchased individually.
Yeah.
But also Antiloneliness Academy is a subscription platform.
Yeah.
And people, when they sign up, they have access to, at the moment, 6 courses, including perfectionism.
Yeah.
And from now on, every month, 1 new course. And this is exactly what I'm talking about on Instagram. So all these tools will be in there about relationships, about boundaries, about toxic relationships, about perfectionism, procrastination, self-love and self-acceptance, loneliness, self-sabotage, to mention a few. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this, we're in a lockdown right now in the Netherlands. So this could also be something that could be good to put in your ears, go for a walk in nature and really take it in while you're in nature, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And usually I say, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't do it perfectly. My videos are really short, like 5 to 10 minutes, so that you can stop, pause, think, reflect, maybe write some things down, and then when you're ready, you can continue to the next one. So people can really walk through the courses in their own pace.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So because we've talked about at one point I mentioned that you were in Amsterdam, which you are not. You are based around Leiden and The Hague, and the other therapists that work at Antiloneliness are similar. Or do you have them abroad, like further?
Some of them, they are in The Hague. Some of them, they are in Leiden. Some of them, they are in Greece. And one of them is in Brazil.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yes.
And everyone's now also working online, right?
Yeah.
So that means that anyone around the world can kind of benefit from your services at Antiloneliness.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
In addition to the courses that you offer. So you do also the one-to-one normal kind of therapy. And of course, we've talked about this before. You do CBT and other kinds of therapies that you had mentioned earlier.
My main approach is chemotherapy, which is an integrative approach that uses CBT for the cognitive part of it, but also Gestalt and mindfulness and person-centered tools from these approaches. So it's an integrative approach. That's why I love it so much. And I'm also trained, as I said, in emotionally focused therapy, which is specifically for couples, because I also support couples when they are struggling in their relationship, when they're trying to find more connection in the relationship. And and the other approaches, and grief counseling I'm also using in my sessions with people that they're grieving. Yeah.
And then just to touch on grief a little bit, is that just grief from the loss of a person who's died, or is it other things as well?
Any loss.
Yeah, any
loss. Yeah, the similarities between the losses are, striking.
Same emotions, right?
Yeah. A loss is a loss. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And so, I think it would be really nice. We spoke about this before, that you've got something to share, but how can everyone find you just before we talk about that? What's the best way to look for you? We've talked about Instagram. What's your Instagram called, and your website?
Uh, the same, I'm using the same name with everything.
Great.
Antiloneliness, antiloneliness.com, if they want to find my website, and then they can find all the services that I offer, and Antiloneliness Academy there, they can find it. They can also find my blog, so that they can read more articles if they like reading.
Yes.
If they like watching, they can also go to my YouTube channel, Anti-Loneliness, as well, where I share my videos. I create videos from now on more consistently, I promise. And the same handle for Instagram, which is Anti-Loneliness, and also LinkedIn.
Okay, fantastic. So you're basically everywhere. We're going to see you everywhere. I'm going to post all the links below the video as well.
Yeah.
Anyone that wasn't able to make it today, they'll be receiving it by email, of course, as well. And what is it that you're going to share with us today?
So what I would like to share with you is, and I'm gonna actually make it very easy. It is my guide, how much of a perfectionist you are.
Okay, so we can figure it out for ourselves
Yep,
by following.
exactly. So it's a free guide, and I'm gonna add it here in the comments. And if somebody hasn't done it, then they can take it and they can see. It's a PDF where I explain all 20 features of a perfectionist, and you can score each of these features, so that eventually at the end of the questionnaire, you can find how much of a perfectionist you are. And there are also 2-3 videos where I explain what I mean with perfectionism and being a perfectionist. And the reason that I create this guide is because not everybody knows what is perfectionism. And hence the question, what's wrong with being a perfectionist? Because we think that this is something positive. We think that it's good to be a perfectionist. We also call ourselves perfectionists when we go to interviews. What is a strong point of view? Yeah, I'm a perfectionist. So we think it's positive, but actually I am examining it from a different perspective. The perfectionist who is struggling to, with the high expectations that they put, and with their mental health because of all these self-sabotage and self-punishment.
Yeah, it's when it really starts hurting you, that it's no longer just about ambition and doing things well. Yeah.
And in the beginning, I was not working with perfectionists, but I noticed that the people that they came to my practice with anxiety, depression, burnout, they all had something in common, and that was the perfectionistic mindset.
Mm-hmm. And that's also what I see a lot in the clients that I have that come to me with anxiety issues.
Yeah.
And they're so hard on themselves.
Exactly.
And so I'm just so happy to have you here, Vasia, today, because I really wanted to let everyone know about you, your work, and what you do, because I think you're really doing some great stuff here. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much also for supporting your clients.
Yeah. I mean, it's any way that I can help, because what I do is not just food and diet recommendations, but also lifestyle. You can't do things separately. So really all of my clients who come to me for anxiety are also in a type of talking therapy, and I'm always encouraging them to deal with the trauma and all the small things that lead up to the anxiety that they suffer from. So
I love that holistic approach. This is exactly how we heal, not only with the talking or the processing, but also through our whole lifestyle, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. And the healing process is not a straight line. It kind of goes like a bit like this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, and at every point in your life, you need maybe a slightly different style of help. So it's good to
Yeah,
keep exploring. So
yeah.
yeah, so thank you again, and thanks to everyone who came here to listen. And of course, everyone's going to have a chance to watch it later. You'll be receiving the email with the link. So if there was anything you wanted to see again or that you missed, then you'll have the opportunity. Okay,
Yes, good. If
so
anybody has any question, I'm here, of course.
yeah, if are there any questions in the chat? Let me see. Alicia said, I work in a very demanding and structured environment with little humans, students. Um, Due to the pandemic, I've been fortunate at times to work from home. So, how do I set limits, prioritize tasks, and find balance in a way that I don't work too much from home? Okay. Is there something in there that because maybe we don't, the days when I'm on campus, it tends to either be too noisy, too many disruptions in order to complete the tasks, which leads to working more from home after hours in a calmer and quieter environment. One then loses track of time, and before you know it, you've not been successful in implementing the suggested and necessary healthy things to do. So the healthy mind platter of physical time, focus time, connecting time, play time, downtime, sleep time, and in time on a daily basis. Well, that does sound a little bit like perfectionism, right?
How do you know about the healthy mind platter? Because I'm usually talking about the healthy mind platter. Have you learned it from me or somewhere else?
Yes, I learned it from you.
Ah,
Yes.
okay. Fantastic. All right. So your question is how you can work more while you are at work, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yes, but at the same time at work, there's not the right environment to work. There's a lot of noise and distraction.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but this is not related with perfectionism. This is about the environment that you need to change.
Yes, also the environment. But also I prefer working at home, seeing it's more quiet, so I get more done as well. Because
Mm.
every time I get interrupted, I need to start from scratch again, because then I need to go back to point A to see where I actually stopped before I can carry on to point B.
Okay. Talking about, if we take it separately, talking about the work from when you are at school, on
Yes, that's
campus.
correct.
Um, Maybe you can arrange, I don't know if it's possible because I don't know the work conditions. Maybe you can arrange so that there is some quiet time with your students so that you agree that during these moments, during this, whatever, half an hour, we will be working and we will be doing something quiet or something that we are both working. But I don't know what age are your students. Yeah, this is something that I'm just saying on the top of my head, so that you can make yourself more productive while you're there.
Yes.
Usually what we also suggest is adjusting the tasks to your energy level. So if, for example, you're feeling that you have a lot of energy and you're very productive, it's a pity if you waste this energy doing something that you can do with your eyes closed. Like, for example, I'm a person who is at the top of my energy during the afternoon. So I'm not going to use that energy and that brain capacity in order to write emails, because emails for me is really easy. I can write it like even when I'm tired. I can be really productive with that. So we have to assign the right task to the right amount of energy we have and brain capacity. So that's something that I don't know if you can use it, if it's useful for you. Now, going back to the working from home, what I usually say that it's important is we set some boundaries. So in order for you to fit in all these very important physical time, not focus time, connecting time, play time, downtime, sleep time, and in time on your daily routine, you have to protect your time. You have to protect you have to create the time that you want in order for that. So perfectly, it would be done perfectly if we had 40 hours a day, but we don't. We have only 24. So we have to squeeze something, we have to let go of something, we have to say that, you know, unfortunately, I didn't manage to finish, or choose what is it that you definitely want to finish before you start personal life. What is the
Okay.
task that you definitely have to finish before life starts? And then the rest goes for the next day. Something like a time management.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Make sense?
It does make sense, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's also because I tend to work like in the morning hours,
Uh-huh.
even though I've been here for about 3 years now, but I still prefer working in the morning hours, rather rest in the afternoon and do it at night, what I'm supposed to do, or in the morning hours. So it works out better for me. But
Yeah.
maybe I need to try and switch it like a normal person, if I can put it like that,
Mm-hmm.
to actually work during the day instead of at nighttime.
Yeah, I mean, normal, there's no such thing as normality. Eh? Whatever suits you, try many things, you know, trial and error, try what works for you, try what helps you meet your own needs, your needs for connection, your needs for fun. And then you will find your style. It's not like everybody's working best in the morning or everybody works best in the evening. It's your style, it's your energy, you know it best.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Great advice. Thank you, Vasya. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. So if there's not, then I think we can close off then with a huge thank you to you, Vasya. Thank you so much for coming and contributing your vast knowledge here. And again, if anyone is interested, they can sign up for the perfectionist quiz, find out exactly how much of a perfectionist you are.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. I also want to thank everybody who has been watching us now, who has attended the event. It was a pleasure. It was an honor to have everybody here. Thank you also, Alicia, for being a fan, and who you
Thank
have
you.
already you already know my healthy mind platter. Thank you also, Lydia and Cleopatra and STX, who is here. And of course, all the other people that will be watching this recording later when they get it in their email.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.